North Milton Avenue.
No, this is Anderson to run a water line
Yeah.
across.
No, the last thing that I knew when Iman was here. I called the Waterworks Board meeting to order. Coming forum, Jerry Burmeister,
Mike Nomack.
Donnie Meyer. All here. We have a quorum. Approve the previous minutes. The only thing that I seen that was not on there, and I was gonna say something to the engineers and I forgot all about it. Scott, and that would have been my fault, is they did not have the clear water or clear well documented at the new water plant for 300,000 gallons. In here where it said that they were going through all of our
Meters.
no, it was the
Preliminary engineering report.
yeah, it said they had 7 wells, 1 treatment plant, 2 the second treatment
Oh.
plant, storage water plant.
The
Had-
inventory is missing.
Yes, so the clear well is missing for 300,000 gallons. That's the only thing that I seen. So if you make that change, I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are good there.
This time we'll call the Waterworks Board meeting to order. Tim Pritchard present, George Kasparovic, Zoom,
Mike Nomack.
and Mike Romack present.
I think you can have a meeting, you just can't make any back.
George,
George, can you hear us?
Go down there. There you go.
Yeah.
Sit and go. What you do. Where's he at?
Sign language, he couldn't walk 2 blocks. I'll come pick him up.
Not loud enough. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, we hear you. All right. Got this good.
Uh-oh, you heard our insults.
I'll still come pick you up, George.
Forget that.
Are you at your house? Can you hear that better?
can you hear us, George? Hello?
Testing 1, 2.
George,
I can hear you.
okay, thank you. We could have the Waterworks Board review the minutes as submitted, please. Ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Do I have a second? George,
Try again.
I need a second for the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the minutes as submitted,
Aye.
please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. There's an old business, new business is IURC petition.
Okay. All right, so if we could go to the petition. So I think everybody here I contacted, did I ever talk to you, Tim? I don't know that I got a hold of, okay, good, that's right. Maybe the judge, not, so. What we have done, and we did it quietly, and, we passed an ordinance that, established a service area for the waterworks, the town waterworks, to include the rest of the unincorporated area of Fall Creek Township and 1 mile into Adams Township. State law allows a town that's a municipal water to go 4 miles from its boundaries. And it just so happened that 4 miles, takes us 1 mile into Adams Township. And, which we went ahead and decided to do that because that coincides also with Fall Creek Regional District's east boundary. And the reason the town council, moved forward on this is that the reality is, with all the expected development to happen, that a subdivision that goes in outside of town is going to have to most likely, in most scenarios, come to the town and ask to be connected to their water anyway. The county has an ordinance that says any development, subdivision development, or commercial development has to have treated water. So if you're a subdivision that's going to be built outside in the unincorporated areas of town, you're either going to go, if you're to the south, you're going to go and ask Greenfield, which, by the way, we discovered from this, their water jurisdiction now goes all the way through Eden and Maxwell and goes all the way to the Madison County border. So Greenfield water is 2 miles from the town borders, Pendleton town borders. Or they could go to Ingalls and ask them to connect up, or they could go to Anderson. So the only logical thing to do, and the comment we got from the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission informally from some staffers there is, we've been waiting for Pendleton to do this for 5 years anyway. Because all that's going to happen is you're going to have Anderson pipes running this way and Pendleton pipes running this way and running past each other to service different neighborhoods. So to be able to plan for the growth, know what our boundaries are, and to force the rest of everybody else around us to define what their boundaries are, we decided that we had to do this. Now, we did it quietly because whoever puts the flag in the ground first, as the way the state law is written, usually has the advantage when establishing the territory. Now, you've got to have a common sense reason that you're the one that services that area. And I think we are building the case now. We haven't gone before the RURC. And so in a way, we have to apologize that we didn't run this through the Waterworks board first or inform the Utility Rate Advisory Board, because we just wanted to do it quietly before Greenfield or Anderson or Ingalls or even South Madison Utilities, which has a water treatment plant on 13, would, surprise everybody and go, hey, we're going to be the water utility for the unincorporated area of Fall Creek. So that out of the way, I will go through probably not the petition first, but the ordinance that we first had to pass at the last town council member. So at that point, I would like to stop and see if you guys have any questions. You want to slap my hand for not telling you ahead of time, but I think there's a very good reason why we did.
Good move.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, well, let's go to the ordinance, because I think the ordinance does a good job of really outlining our strategy.
Is that a separate document?
It's the next document down, just scroll down. So first, by state law, you have to have an ordinance in place saying, we claim this area as our utility. And then it has to go before you petition before the Utility Rate Advisory, not utility, the IURC, and then they bless it. Part of that is we have to notify all the surrounding utilities that we're doing this, and that's part of the petition process. So I did get a question from Ingalls already, and so they did get the notice through the IURC that we had filed this, the petition. Here's the ordinance that kicked it off. And if you could scroll down, keep scrolling down a little bit. This is the whereases. Okay. Let's see, where is that? Defines what the area is formally. It defines if you come in serve water in our area, there's a fine for it. Section 9, if you could go ahead and scroll down. Okay, go back up. Okay, in the ordinance, what it also says, oh, yeah, there's the section. It doesn't, section 8, I think is the most important section here. It doesn't prevent the town from later seeking or obtaining from nearby municipalities or others the right to provide service in any area, retaining any and all rights to acquire any and all other assets used in providing water in any service area, and exercising any power it has under Indiana law, including certain article. It also talks about up in section 4, it doesn't mandate that we extend the service to areas where technically or financially not feasible. So that's really important for our strategy, and I'll get into that in a second. Number 2 is prevent the town from authorizing another utility to provide service in the service area. We'll talk about where I think that'll happen. And then 3, it doesn't prevent us from using on-site water treatment. The use of on-site water treatment or distribution system where the town does not currently have facilities available. So I think this is important to understand the strategy, because in the undeveloped area, the areas outside of Pendleton, what our strategy will be is a developer comes to us, he wants to put a subdivision that's 1 mile out of town. And then what we'll do is, if it's connected to the town or touches the town in some way, we're going to ask them to go ahead and annex into town, because to maintain those water lines down the line, no pun intended, we're gonna have to tear up a street when there's a leak or whatever. 40 years from now, replace certain items. We're gonna be tearing up a street that we don't own. It only makes sense that we own that street. But in areas, so let me back up. So if it's an area that doesn't touch the town, under Indiana law, we'll follow the water main extension laws, and the developer will put that water main in with his own money to that subdivision. And then as other people tap into it, there'll be a surcharge to that service. Let's say 3 or 4 other subdivisions come along and they connect up to that water main. Each one of those homes in there will have a surcharge to it, and Indiana law allows that developer to get his money back over time. That's what everybody does. It's a common practice. So if they are not in a situation where voluntary annexation works, what we'll do is, and Summer Lake did this years ago, we will ask them that in the covenants of the land, that at the time when the town is ready to accept their petition to annex in the town, and then we'll do it at that point. So it's either you annex now or you promise to annex in the future voluntarily. And that's when you sign up for water, right? So the developer owns the land, he agrees to that, and then every home that buys off of that. There are certain areas where water is actually closer from another jurisdiction. It's happening. We've had one parcel that touches State Road 13, just north of the intersection for I-69. There's probably some parcels in there that we'll go ahead and have Ingalls hook up to. That doesn't mean we give up our jurisdiction. We'll just have an agreement with them. They can provide water until we have water out there. Number 3. Basically, this is a good thing. If you have a water well and it's working, we want you to stay on that water well. We don't want to hook you up. We only want to hook up new subdivisions. But if we run a water main past you and you want to hook up, that's fine. It is not financially feasible to willy-nilly just have, 200 customers hook up for a $4 million and run a $4 million water main just so you can hook up 200 customers. Makes no sense at all. And so people in the unincorporated areas who are already on water wells will probably stay on water wells for a long time until we see almost full up development, right? Which is over the next decades for that to happen. Now, if we have a situation which is starting to happen in White Oaks, Wooded Ridge, where people are starting to have bad wells, then that is probably the one area where we will go into a pre-existing development and retroactively bring in water. But once again, there'll be the annexation issues. We'll probably try and get people out there to, when that comes to a head, get them to annex into town, because once again, we'll be tearing up streets we don't own, and it doesn't make sense not to own them. So that section 4 and section 8 really, in a not a direct way, but sort of sums up our strategy on how we would handle this expansion and how it would play out. You know, one of the things we're up against is we don't know who's going to develop first or where. We don't know which grounds, which farmer sells his 100 acres first. Another area that there is parts of Anderson do come into, which we were talking about earlier, come into Fall Creek Township. One is in Adams Township. The one is the northeast corner, right, where 109 comes into Adams Township. That is in the jurisdiction. And then we were talking about the up there off of 67, like Doug McGee made that decision not to years ago, provide them with water. And then what we talked about there on State Road 9. The area, if we could go to the top of the page, Stephanie, section 1. Yeah, it starts, yeah, right there. So the service area will now be defined as all the unincorporated areas, the incorporated areas of the town, so what we have now, the unincorporated areas in Green Township that are encapsulated by the incorporated areas of the town of Pendleton, which is out Jefferson Place, some parcels out along State Road 38. Everybody's familiar with what I'm talking about? Congress Drive, Constitutional Drive, off of State Road 38. So those are totally encapsulated by the town. So we don't want anything in Green Township other than those parcels that are surrounded by the town already anyway. Then it goes on to say the unincorporated areas of Fall Creek. So if it's incorporated into Anderson already, then that's not included in this. We wouldn't have, Indiana law wouldn't allow us to go into Anderson city limits anyway, or any other municipal city limits or town limits. And then all the unincorporated parcels, either partial, as long as it touches within 4 miles, the whole parcel doesn't have to be within the 4 miles, just part of it in Adams Township, which basically is the whole area to 100 East, except for 14, 17 parcels that just don't quite make the 4 miles, but yet they're within 100 East. And if you could scroll down to the map, we'll be able to show you that. So this is the new district in full. It's jagged out here. Yeah, do you have my point? Yes, thank you. Where my heart is. I love this thing. Okay, so 4 miles. Now this looks jagged because if it just touches the parcel, then you extend to the end of the parcel, right? And then here is Eagle city limits, right? Horseshoes. Over this is the unincorporated area here. These are the unincorporated parcels that are encapsulated by the town. Here's the one parcel that touches 13. So this is, we may ask Eagles to service this area or have South Madison Utility, which is owned by Aqua Water, Aqua America.
American Water.
American Water.
American Water.
This is LaPel's city limits. So they're right up here. Here's the parts of Anderson that come into Fall Creek. Here is a little area up here that Anderson's, it's unincorporated, but Anderson will probably contest it. I think that's the only friction area we'll probably see, and that's just because this is developing industrially. Between us, the rumor is they don't have enough water to barely meet the needs of Nestle every day, so I don't know how this is gonna go. If they're gonna contest this, but it's the one area where they could contest it. And I think this is the township line right up here, this 600. That look right, or is this there's 525, so the 600 would be, there it is. That's the township line right there. And 400 is the township line. So this area, right? We're asking for this area, which is Fall Creek Township. And then the rest of Fall Creek Township. And then roughly the 1 mile here. If you could go south. Yeah, go. So you'll see that there's some parcels right here that don't quite make it to 100 east. If you could scroll down, there's another map. It's a zoom in of the Anderson area near 109. So this is the Anderson boundaries. Here's 109 going down to Marpleville. Here is what's within the 4 miles, the parcels, and then except for the incorporated areas of Anderson, those parcels will not be included in this petition. Any questions on how this would look?
So will Anderson get a notice?
Anderson got a notice.
No response.
Personally, I hope it's just sitting on a desk.
So what, I mean,
So Eagles got, so I'm gonna go back to Eagles here because I got a phone call from them and I learned a lot. Well, first,
This is
If
the
you
right
go-
thing, it's the right thing to do, so that's what we done at Fall Creek, we're in that line out there.
what's that?
It's the right thing to do, because that's what we done with Fall Creek. Regional Lakes, we ran that line out there on cost 132.
Yeah,
Mark their territory.
right. Well, this is your boundary right here.
Right.
It just so coincidence that it coincides, and part of our testimony of why is that why we should be the ones that service this area. First, geographically, it makes sense, but that it matches, it falls within the fire territory and the possible fire territory. It falls within Fall Creek Regional Waste District's boundaries. It predominantly services the joint Fall Creek Pendleton Park System, right? Because it's a township town entity. The service area is, and then it matches the school corporation. So if you could go to, let's talk about Ingalls. So go back up to the bigger map. Okay, so Ingalls called me right away. Their town manager, great guy, said, hey, we need to talk this out. We have a well in Fall Creek Township, and it is just inside the boundaries. It's on farm ground. It's south of 67 across from the reformatory, right? I looked it up. I didn't see where they own the ground. Are they leasing that ground?
they are leasing the ground.
From Manifold?
Yes.
Okay. Then they run a raw water line to the old water treatment plant at the reformatory. I didn't realize this. That's Ingalls Water Treatment Plant.
Yes.
Okay. So we have the odd situation where their water treatment plant, and they service, right, the reformatory. So we have an odd situation, and I've already written a draft for the testimony. It's like 12 pages long, and it talks about this in that testimony. But what I think the way we're going to handle this is, and I talked to Neil Stevens, the town manager, a little bit.
I said, first of all, the state grounds are an odd duck anyway, because they are state grounds and we have no jurisdiction. Even though they're in Fall Creek, at least substantially in Fall Creek, the old part and part of the industrial facility, right? And the fact that their water treatment plant is on the grounds and it services Ingalls and the reformatory. So I think what we'll do is we'll not give up the jurisdiction, but give them the right to go ahead and continue to operate within our service area, but they can't use it to expand into our service area. And as long as it's state-owned ground, DOC property, and Ingalls owns or operates the water treatment plant, then they can go ahead and keep going forward. Now, if all of a sudden the reformatory says, Ingalls, we don't want to be associated with you anymore, we're taking our water treatment plant back, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's a couple scenarios where that situation could all go away. Well, then I think we write this up in a way that we're not giving up jurisdiction. We're just giving them permission to operate like it did in section 4 of the ordinance, to operate within our jurisdiction. Anybody got a better idea? I'd like to hear it, go for it, but I can't think of any other way. Maybe some brilliant attorney will figure out better language.
How long will it take the IREC to react?
We're pretty quick. I forgot to bring in the timeline. Probably within 30 days we'll be before them. Let's see what else we got. Oh, I think this is very significant. Greenfield is already here, and our water treatment plant is right here. So we're 900 south, 1,000 south, 1,100 south. They're within 2 miles. So if a development went in here, they have 3 options: Town of Pendleton, Ingalls, or Greenfield. It could be chaos if we didn't establish this territory. Now, the other thing that's good about the territory is once we know it, we can now plan where we're going to put a 3rd water treatment plant, where we're going to put water tower number 3, water tower number 4, and develop a master plan. And even if we didn't expand our territory outside our boundaries, our current boundaries, we have to probably do those things anyway. We're definitely going to have to put up more water towers and at least double the existing plant. The other thing that is important part of our testimony is that our capacity right now is can service 17,000 people. The town of Pendleton is roughly 6,000 right now. So we have a lot of excess capacity. The unincorporated population here is about 10,500. So even if we could wave a wand the next day after we had jurisdiction and approval from the IURC, if the lines were magically in place, we could service the whole population now as it exists. But as I said earlier, this population will take decades to finally connect up. So we have, and then our water treatment plant number 2 is designed to do a mirror image expansion, thanks to the wisdom of Donnie Myers years ago, right? So that would give us another 10,000 in population. So if you discount the current population and only service the new population, we roughly have 17 plus 10, a capacity of 27,000 with only serving right now 6,000. So we have a max capacity and what I call an immediate capacity, a current capacity of roughly 11,000 with an immediate capacity. In other words, you double the plant, the year to design it and build it, 2 years. Within 2 years, we could have a capacity of 27,000. I don't think Ingalls is even close
Unless
to
a
that.
big water user comes in, that would be your only.
Yeah, right. But most our planning and zoning is designed for a bedroom
Right.
to be a small town community and not,
Well, I was thinking more towards Adams Township.
yes, that could happen. Yes, along the state roads, absolutely.
Yes.
Then if you look at Greenfield, I don't think their water is much past 70. I don't think they're servicing Maxwell and Eden yet. So
No.
their service area is defined to being right here, but I don't think their pipes are even close to being to the north, for them, the north, or to us, the south. So
It comes to that campground.
it touches the
Count-
Ingalls, yeah, because does part of that go into Hancock County?
Yeah.
Okay. So that right here, yeah, so that's right here, right?
No, I meant back at Greenfield. They come up, what's the road this side of 70? There's a campground to the west. Off of 9.
Yogi Bear.
Yes,
Yogi Bear.
That's as far north as they are.
that's last that I knew.
Okay.
That's a 9. Wow.
Yes, no.
Actually, 109.
Yeah, the Yogi Bear's on 109.
Yogi Bear's at 109. Yogi Bear's way down there.
There's a camp, and you can see it from 72. It's on the south side of that road, whatever the road that is. Is that 400? 300?
I know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, just south of Portville.
No, it'd be just north of 70. First road north of 70, the last stoplight.
Yeah.
George, you have any questions or comments?
Just sort of overwhelmed with the whole thing.
Oh, believe me, it's overwhelming. So the reality though, I think, is that, let's just say in 60 days, we get granted, 90 days, we get granted, certification from the IURC. You're not gonna see anything right away.
Can anyone oppose this?
So the way I understand it, the IURC looks at the practicality and not the politics. And so I think our geography layout, part of our petition too.
In town.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I can find.
the 530. Yeah, that'll be right here.
Oh. Carrie.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. What was I saying?
Opposition or the way you?
Yeah, so that's what they're gonna listen to, is if another utility comes in and says, hey, look, no. We're the ones that should be doing this, and here's why, and their argument's better. The other thing that we talk about too in our testimony that we're preparing is, if you look at Pendleton, the layout, it's spokes in a wheel. So for us to run a main out somewhere is fairly easy. Because of that. And then, of course, then that's one of the non-state roads that would go to the northeast is Huntsville Road, and that sort of configuration out there. To the south, our water treatment plant's right here, right? Our brand new one. So I think we have the geographic advantage, the multi-jurisdictional advantage. We're the bigger footprint. This far part, there's a few exceptions, granted. But that's where the town already, by the way, this boundary is already established and filed with the IURC for this being our water our water service area.
That's 675 west,
Um,
800 west, something,
that's 700.
800 west. That's 700,
It's,
That's 800.
that's
so
800.
that's 800, but this, that
That
the
line
town
is
boundary
700.
is,
Is the township.
yeah.
Oh.
No, the
okay.
township is at 600 west.
Well, that line.
So we go into
that guy.
Green, no?
Huh?
So we go into Green Township?
Pendleton boundaries do,
Okay.
yes. This, roughly this
Corner,
part,
that brick house on the corner.
yeah, all this is Green Township. From this line over is Green Township. But we already are on file with the IURC to service this area. It's the hashed area that's new that we'll be adding. So this little encapsulated areas and then this area to the east. So most of the expansion is geographically is to the east and to the south.
Are you gonna file for electric
No,
utility?
that's already set. Those
Those are already.
Those
set?
are set. They're never changed. The only way they change is if we bought Duke territory or Duke bought some of our territory or AEP bought some of ours. That's set, and that's with the IURC. The water, municipal water has different set of state laws and rules that we follow under the IURC. The water is basically the Wild Wild West.
Yeah,
In theory, you could have 3 different water companies in the same neighborhood, which is terribly inefficient, silly to do, but there's places in Indiana where it happens.
Westfield and Carmel. for
Yeah,
Example.
yeah. Yeah, they have water lines real, I've been following those stories. They have water lines running very close to each other. And that's part of our argument too, is, hey, let's just establish this territory so we're not being inefficient with utilities, which they love, right? That's about the IURC. And then also this has to get approval from the consumer. I forget what they're called, but basically they look out for the rights of the consumers. And one of the things that they hate is redundancy, unnecessary redundancy. And this prevents that.
the Ingalls water is within that orange boundaries. Is that what you're saying? That's,
Their
yeah,
well
I know that you got a
is
well
right
out
here and their water treatment plant is right
Yeah.
here, but this, the
that's
orange is their incorporated area and it horseshoes up. Comes down 69, then comes down 13 in this area here.
Oh, okay.
If you talk to them, their officials, their concern is filling this in first. They're not interested. They might be interested here, of course.
Okay. Questions from the board? Jerry?
It's good planning, in my opinion. It's planning for the future, planning for growth.
Mike?
No, I don't, that little corner up there on 67, somebody told me they thought they were gonna put a gas station up there across from the pit.
Yeah, if you could scroll into
And that's
Definitely.
Anderson city limits?
Yes. Yeah, so that would be this, see this?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So they don't have,
So here is Pendle Point,
yeah,
67, IMI is
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
Actually, IMI is,
It's that whole area.
yeah,
yeah, this whole area.
yeah.
So the
Yeah.
gas station is going, truck stop, whatever, somewhere in here.
But they're gonna have to get their water from, they don't know. Anderson gonna have to give them water if they're in waters.
That's a big enough user, they may just run a line underneath the 69. That's what I think is gonna happen.
I've been getting a lot of questions on that property there and who's gonna provide the water.
It's a lot of work, but we obviously don't have any choice. And if we don't do this, we still have a lot of work that'll happen to come before us anyway, because developers are gonna ask us for water.
So I guess I'm gonna ask this question. Are we interested? If they come to us and say, we want you to serve that area with water.
I don't know. I think it's a town council decision.
Whose power is it? Anderson's?
Yes.
Ours.
Yeah.
Sanderson Power Line.
Yeah. In fact, how far south do they come? I think we just go to our town boundaries.
Yes, we go, they have,
I do know we
they have
serve-
everything on this side.
Yeah, I do know we service Pedal Point.
Yes, that's as far north as we go.
Fall Creek Regional Waste District, I mean, that's gonna be a question for them, right?
Well, you made the exact same comments. We're in relations to the power, the lines and poles are already there, so there's no argument. But with water and sewer, they're not there yet, like we're trying to protect our territory.
Mhm.
Same with sewer, it's first come, first served.
Even though I thought you guys had yours
We
established.
do, but there's places that we're reaching out to put in a line for the future. That's why we run the one over 232 out here. Just in case.
Well, I thought
Steve
you're,
Unger with Bose McKinney said there's been some huge lawsuits over
in the
this.
courts, because it may be your boundary, but they're closer.
And they run a line out there. Next thing you know, these people come over and say, hey, you're in our territory. And they say, nope, we had a line there, water or sewer.
Yeah.
It's been huge fights.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have an issue. Unless Anderson is just like, I do know it's a day-to-day occurrence where they'll have enough water. That's why they're desperate for water and they've been looking in this area. Oh, well, I'm sorry, over here. For a well, because it's a day-to-day occurrence whether they can, and this is secondhand, whether they can get enough water to Nestle. They don't know till they wake up in the morning.
So can they drill outside the city limits?
Yeah, they can go
Yeah.
outside their city, just like we can now. We can just, if we have an ordinance that says we can service outside the town limits, we can do it. The trouble is, if you don't file, then your return on investments for the mains and everything else, the infrastructure you put in, you may have competition running down the other side of the street. So,
That's how we got the new plan, is we went and tested outside the city limits. And then once
Yeah.
there was water, they wanted to sell, we annexed that area.
So back to Anderson, they drill a well out here that they can't annex now, they're not contiguous. Okay,
well, they could own the ground.
but
But if the IURC grants us, as we petitioned for, then they can't service from it. They could run a raw water line. You know,
About 3 weeks ago, I seen a rig in the middle of that field. And they were looking for water.
yeah.
Is this area that's Anderson, is that above the aqueduct, or do you know where it actually
Yeah,
was?
so the aquifer, as far as I know, Donnie probably knows as much as I do, but if you can zoom out, Stephanie. So the aquifer runs like this. Is this during a bell, Donnie?
Yes.
And so that's why Anderson's looking in this area around
The old airport,
yeah,
old Ace Airport,
Yeah.
that is that
Ovid.
runs all the way up to there.
the
And
Ovid
runs
area.
all south past 9.
Right. So we also know, because this water treatment plant is right here off of 38 on 13, just north of 38, we also know there's probably gonna be some water here. But I do know the big heavy aquifer is right.
We know there's nothing on the state grounds. We've already tested all that area out that way. And found absolutely nothing.
State on that penitentiary.
That's why
Right.
that well has to be south of 67, because that's
Yes.
basically, if you think about it, geography wise, that's right next door to our water treatment.
Well, there's another aquifer that they're in.
It's a different than this one.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
And that was from my buddy over in Carmel before he passed away. That was trying to tell me, hey, you guys need to get in here and And then I think,
So I suspect that, I'm pretty sure that the aquifer they're tapping into here on 13 is not the same as ours.
no,
Right.
the one that Ingles is into
Is
that one.
this one?
Yeah,
They tend to follow old streams and rivers.
And how long do they have before they file, or Anderson, the town of Anderson says, wait a minute.
So when we do our hearing, they can come before them and protest it or get in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how this will go.
I think what you did was great, getting in there first.
I think since it's just us guys, girls, that I think Markville and Adams Township woke up to the fact that that shingle plant was going to go in 109 and they were going to annex it. And then that would give Anderson, then they could just do the next parcel down 109, the next parcel down 109. And they would use their utilities to, just like we would, make them annex into Anderson voluntarily to get you access to their water and sewer. And so the next thing you know, Anderson could be going right down 109 into Markville. You know, they're smart. They learned their lesson. You know, the opposition to the merging here to prevent the Andersons and the Greenfields and the Ingles from coming over here. You know, these are the smarter people right now. Because they're like, oh God, they almost got stung. And so they woke up to the fact they got to protect themselves. Well, the only way they can protect themselves is to go merge with Markville so they can use Markville's powers as a municipality to protect themselves from Anderson.
I do know there was a test being done for water right across the street from Menards into that field.
Yep, that was one of the places they looked.
Well, some of that was soil water too.
This one was for water.
What if we put a plant southeast down there and went to Markville and said, hey, do you want water?
If we did put another plant here and do what?
Went to Markville and watered Markville.
Well, that's what I was about ready to say. I think we may have Markville come to us and say, because they have no infrastructure, they may want to be part of it and have some, I don't know, I could just see them.
It gives us good justification to have a plan.
The smart people over here are going to be very thankful that we did this.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, I think if Markville and Adams Township merged to create a town so that they can control their own destiny out here, then if they came to us and said, you know, hey, we need to start our own water company, and you know, really just turn this back over to us. And if we haven't put anything in place at the time, I don't.
I don't see Markville making those moves. They don't see them making any moves.
I will tell you, I went to talk to their town, I was invited to their town council meeting to talk about what Pendleton's growth strategy is. And the feedback I got is that the farmers in Adams Township woke up and they understood the discussion here in Fall Creek Township about a merger, because they were totally bent over naked over that log, and they knew it. And they realized as soon as that happened, they realized they were going to get screwed.
They're getting pushed hard over there for solar wind. They're banging on every door over there.
Who is? Oh, the companies?
Solar wind.
Yeah.
Good. Any other comments or questions? George?
Not a
Bonnie?
question, but I guess being thrown into this whole thing is very complicated. Understand that. What is our role as a group? Do we have to reprove it or approve it, or the town will take care of all that?
It's already been. It
So
passed
this-
the town council. This is an information meeting.
Okay, with that being said, Scott, I'm interested too. You've got about 3 or 4 different plans, which is great. But I couldn't follow them up if I had to. If this happens, this will happen. If this happens, this will happen. Who makes all that? You make all that, those decisions, what's coming down?
No, so, I fully admit that probably the way, if we didn't have the political pressures, would have gone through the Waterworks Board first to get input and approval, and then it would have gone to town council, not required. But because we wanted to do this quietly, because like I said, Indiana state law says whoever puts their flag in the ground first has precedence. And it's the same with Fall Creek Regional Waste District. Years ago, they put their flag in the ground. And so for water, it's the same thing.
I have to applaud your vision, which is exactly what we have to have. My only question is, as far as I could see you having probably 5 or 6 different scenarios. If somebody did this, we would have to do that. If somebody did that, this is what we're gonna do. And here's our multiple, I mean, the major plan we've got to maintain. We as a group. I don't know
So
if
are you talking about scenarios of like what area of Fall Creek Township develops first?
that it tied in everything else. What you have is looks like one thing starts, it's gonna be a domino that other people are gonna start moving fast and quick too.
Yes.
Okay, our plan then is to do this, or if they do that, we're gonna do this.
Okay, so I didn't talk about it much, but I have talked about it in the past. This is before, but it was different people on the board. So the plan is whether this extra service area comes into place or not, the plan is we are going to develop a master plan now ahead of development, and we will know where every major water main is going to go. We will find the water up front, know where the water wells will be, which will dictate where the new water treatment plants will go, which will dictate where the new water storage plants will go.
Outstanding. Now, will that come through your office?
Yes, so when a developer comes in, we'll know ahead of time what water main he has to buy into or build and then get reimbursed for from the other developers. And we will know if he comes to us and says, I want to develop this 100 acres, and we say this water main, the capital and cost estimate is $5 million. Your development is 20%, will take 20% of that water. And the other developments unknown yet, eventually when they come online, will take 80% of that water. So because you're first, you got to build the water main, but as these developments happen, you'll get reimbursed.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't guarantee them when, but that's just the way the water main extension rules work in Indiana.
Well,
So-
the most
But they will know
concern,
ahead of time, they will know ahead of time. It won't be backwards where a developer comes in and says, I'm gonna develop here, and then we have to engineer where the main is, then we have to figure out where the water's coming from. We're gonna have that figured out ahead of time. So, do we have to do that anyway? We have to do that anyway.
okay, the main thing I guess I won't leave with you is as long as Donnie Meyer and myself have showers and bath, we'll be okay.
Yep.
That's great. I'm sorry, I've got to leave. You can head for another place.
Okay.
Thank you,
I can
George.
talk to Donnie later or you. Thank you much.
We don't need a vote or anything else. do we?
No.
Just need to adjourn the meeting.
I'll adjourn the water board meeting.
Approve, agreed.
Then he can do his.
You can adjourn your.
Utility rate.
Okay.